Before the pyramids, before the rise of any known civilization, there was a world whispered about in ancient texts, carved into stone and hidden between timelines. That world was Atlantis. Not just a myth, not just a story, a memory, buried so deep we stopped calling it history and started calling it fiction. But Atlantis was real. And the truth is still encoded in temples, in scriptures, and in the geometry of our very planet. What we call mythology was once someone's memory, and the reason you feel drawn to it, the reason it echoes inside you, is because you've known it before. You didn't come here to discover Atlantis. You came here to remember it, because Atlantis is not just a sunken city, it's a frequency, and that frequency is beginning to rise again. So what was Atlantis really? It wasn't just an island, it was a civilization of consciousness, a culture where technology and spirit were not separate. They were one. Atlanteans understood energy the way we understand electricity. They didn't believe in vibration. They mastered it. Sound was not entertainment. It was architecture. Frequency was not theory. It was law. They built with resonance. They healed with light. They navigated through the stars, not by metal machines, but through the alignment of thought. And the records of this, they were never entirely lost. Fragments remain in Egypt, in South America, under ocean floors, and even encoded in our dreams. Plato didn't invent the story. He recorded it. From Egyptian priests who themselves said, "This is not a tale. This is your forgotten beginning." Atlantis was not fantasy. It was foundation, and we are the generation being called to rebuild what was lost. But if Atlantis was real, what happened to it? How does a civilization so advanced simply vanish? The truth is layered. Atlantis fell not by accident, but by imbalance. They rose in power, but forgot their alignment. They mastered energy, but lost their wisdom. What was once a society of harmony became a culture of control. Technology outpaced integrity. Ego overtook intuition. And the earth responded, not in punishment, but in balance. A great shift. A cleansing. Waters rose, structures sank, and time swallowed what pride had built. But not all was lost. The knowledge survived, scattered, encrypted, and hidden. In symbols, in stories, in bloodlines and memory. Atlantis didn't disappear, it repositioned, waiting for those ready to see beyond the veil and bring its frequency back into the world. So how do we find Atlantis now? Not with submarines, not by digging in the sand, but by remembering. Because Atlantis was never just a place, it was a state of being. You feel drawn to it because its frequency still exists, just out of reach, whispering through synchronicities, echoing in sacred geometry, humming in the silence between thoughts. The ancients left us clues. Atlantean knowledge was passed through mystery schools, hidden in symbols like the spiral, the Ankh, the flower of life. Even the myth of the Great Flood isn't just about water, it's about loss of memory, a metaphor for how we sank beneath the weight of disconnection. But now, the waters are receding, not literally, but spiritually. We are in a time of emergence, a reawakening, not to return to the past, but to reclaim the wisdom that was never meant to be forgotten. You see, Atlantis was a mirror of what humanity can become, and what happens when we forget who we are. It was the first great rise, and the first great fall, And now we stand at the edge of a second choice. Do we repeat the cycle, or do we evolve? Because the same forces that lifted Atlantis, sacred science, unified consciousness, vibrational mastery, are returning. We feel it in the way time bends around synchronicity, in the way ancient knowledge reemerges just when we need it most. We are not starting over. We are picking up the thread. The Atlantean soul never died. It scattered into poets, engineers, healers, seekers, and if you're hearing this, you are one of them. You didn't come to observe the shift. You came to participate, to restore not the city, but the spirit it once carried. So where is the proof? Not in a museum, not behind locked vaults, but all around us. In the stones of the pyramids, aligned perfectly with the stars, in underwater structures off the coasts of Japan, Cuba, and India, too precise, too ancient to dismiss. In the similarities between distant cultures that supposedly never met, building the same temples, using the same symbols, telling the same story of a great flood and a forgotten golden age, and even deeper than that, the proof lives inside you. Why do you feel resonance with a city you've never seen? Why do you dream of ruins, of skies lit by crystal towers, of technology that harmonized with spirit? Because memory is not always logical. It's vibrational. The truth of Atlantis is not just historical, it's cellular. And when the vibration returns, the memory follows. That's why the world is shifting now. Because you are. Atlantis was never meant to remain lost. Its fall wasn't the end of a civilization. It was the seeding of a legacy that would survive in fragments, in the DNA of truth seekers, in the dreams of mystics, in the intuition of those who feel like they were born with a memory that never quite had a source. This isn't about proving it to the world. It's about feeling it in yourself. Because the greatest secrets were never meant to be published. They were meant to be remembered. In silence, in presence, in the way your heart recognizes what your mind can't explain. You don't need an academy. You don't need validation. You need to trust the resonance that pulls you toward the symbols, the stories, the sound of ancient waters calling something dormant inside you. Atlantis isn't waiting to be found. It's waiting to be reawakened. And the key isn't somewhere out there, it's in you. Atlantis was not just a city, it was a template, a living blueprint of what happens when spirit and science, mind and matter, are in complete harmony, and we are now approaching the same crossroads. A new Earth is forming, not through force, but through frequency. You feel it in the breakdown of systems, in the rise of intuition, in the way truth refuses to stay buried. The Atlantean frequency is returning because consciousness is ready to hold it again. But this time, we bring the memory with maturity, power with humility, technology with wisdom. We're not rebuilding Atlantis brick by brick. We're reconstructing its essence in our thoughts, in our relationships, in how we treat the earth and each other. Atlantis doesn't rise through architecture. It rises through awareness. And every time you choose love over fear, presence over distraction, soul over ego, you lay another stone in the city that never truly left. Atlantis isn't gone. It's just waiting for the ones who can see with more than their eyes, the ones who feel the pull when the stars align, the ones who remember the hum of crystal energy, the unity of voice and light, the peace that comes not from control, but from connection. You didn't just come here to learn about Atlantis. You came to carry it forward, not as a place in the past, but as a presence in the now. Every time you choose alignment, every time you live with intention, every time you listen deeply to the whispers of your soul, you awaken what was never truly lost. Atlantis is not something to be believed. It's something to be lived. And the proof is in you, in your curiosity, your calling, your courage to remember what the world tried to make you forget. So ask yourself, not, did it exist, but, what part of me has always known that it did?